Alright guys, the time has come. The Askr Trio is now ready to go. Full ignition, we've been asking for this for a very long time. Alphonse, Serena, Anna, and I guess Fjorm. They are now ready to go, and it is time to consider their refinements and what implications it means for Arena and their usage in general. So walk with me here as we figure out what I think about how you should use them, which one you should refine, and what you can look forward to if you intend to climb Arena, where you will most likely use these guys because of their bonus unit implications. Every single 2 or 3 weeks, a bonus unit rotates out, and it is Alphonse, Serena, Anna, and Fjorm. So that means it's important that you know the know-how, and let's open our books and get to it. So first off, we're going to start off with Alphonse, who's going to be the first bonus unit of Tuesday of the next bonus unit season, which will begin on the 14th. So August 14th, we're going to be starting with that. Alphonse will be your first unit for that. And yeah, he actually, in my opinion, just starting off, will actually be the best Askr Trio. And I'll tell you why. The reason for it is because he has such min-max stats. He's in such a good shape for bonus unit rotations. These bonus stats he gets, 10 HP added, really high defense, really high attack, the highest out of the trio. And his speed doesn't generally matter because a lot of the top tier units that you run into are generally fairly slow. Some of them that you do run into who might be speedy, maybe something like Amelia or Zelgius, he can stalemate with them or just straight out beat them due to his high defense or just really good stats. So this is what I plan to do. It's one way to do it. I'm going to give you some alternatives, but here's how we're going to do it. My experience with Chrom is how we do this, right? Alphonse has really good min-max stat spread, very similar to Chrom actually, with high attack, high defense, generally low speed, low res, and high HP. So my experience with Chrom is how I'm going to implicate Alphonse into my arena bonuses. So what I've looked at here is the difference between Alphonse and Chrom is the fact that he doesn't have to rely on bonds as much, which I guess is kind of ironic because the rest of the team comp will be certainly buffing him up. What I wanted to look at is kind of like what sort of units you might run into at the top of the arena, especially if you're aiming for tier 21. So at the top of that, we have things like Emgrima, Zelgius, Harden, Effie, Amelia, all versions of Hector. Sometimes you run into some mages, Winter Tharja, even Micaiah, okay? These are all things you got to consider that Alphonse needs to beat. So how do we go about doing this? Well, let's patch up his lowest stat. This is the way I think I'm going to go. And the reason I choose to do this with Res Refine Folkvanger is because if you actually consider what sort of defenses Alphonse will have, he generally won't have any trouble with his defense matchups, or if something's hitting his defense, but he might struggle against units who hit his res. As an example, team comp that I've created, I have Ike here with double drive defense, a rally speed and defense. I have Sheena with high Goida, some ploys, a chill defense, and then here's my Lecter also with high Goida, rally defense res, and a drive attack. So generally speaking, my Alphonse, especially after reaching brazen attack defense range, he's going to have upwards of 60 defense when you include the bonus defense he reaches, the summoner support, which gives 2 to all stats, and ally support with Brave Ike. This means that my personal Alphonse reaches 60 defense, but his res will not be as lucky because he doesn't get res from his refinement of Folkvanger. So it's very important that you consider that you try to patch up as many matchups as you can to successfully beat it and get you as many points as you can out of the new arena system. Now, I haven't even considered that Alphonse will likely have upwards of 60 plus HP once you consider the plus 10 HP, maybe the Fire Blessing effect from Fire Seasons and such, with Lecter being on my team. These are all things that will definitely help him, and the reason I've chosen to give him Renewal, for instance, and the alternative to that would be like Guard, to prevent something like a Black Luna. Guard would prevent Black Luna, but the thing is, with 60 plus HP, Alphonse can take a Black Luna. He can he can take the Black Luna if you wanted him to. He has so much HP that cutting his defenses will not even matter. So that's why I'm choosing to run Renewal, so that he can just heal up all that damage and then take on multiple matchups. Finally, some of you might be looking at this like, why does he have Growing Wind? Well, what I plan to do is actually just give him Gale Force instead. Especially with his super high attack, I've decided to give him Gale Force with Heavy Blade because he should have 100% consistency using that. And of course, TA. Just to quickly talk about his TA effect on his weapon, I don't recommend running that at all because with the new system, you want your bonus units to get the kills. You need them to get as many kills as possible, and TA has that negative effect of denying you kills against disadvantaged matchups. Something like Harden, something like Effie, they will give him a real hard time if you choose to just kill those matchups. Meanwhile, his green matchups will generally be fairly successful. So what do we have? We have Alphonse. He'll be generally fast enough with all the buffs provided to him to double and proc off Gale Force to get multiple kills in one round. Or, because we have no positional skills, in the case of Alphonse, you can actually hit and then run with Gale Force, in case you're afraid. That's how I plan to do it. This is a max scoring Alphonse build, and of course we're going to hit tier 21. This is my main account, so it's a little bit different from what I'll show on the free-to-play gameplay that you guys can look forward to in a week or two when we use Alphonse with a slightly different support build there, different build altogether, but will be successful as well. So this is Alphonse. For those of you that are considering summoner supporting or ally supporting, there are methods involved for doing this, and I will show it off. I'm going to have some gameplay footage of me farming that. Good examples of it will be Robin. Robin is a level 35 map that happens on Wednesday. Very good day to be farming ally support and summoner support. It's really easy to do with some basic setups, some buffs, and you can get it done usually in 10 to 20 minutes. I'll show that off in another video. And finally, if you miss out on that day, Arvis is also an alternative to this. It's really easy to set up his farm. Some of the other HM maps as well can do it. You can even choose to do it on rival domains now if you choose to do it, which is also 0 stamina map. Do I think it's worth it? Yes. Getting the top tiers will require this sort of dedication. It doesn't require too much time. Now, let's look at the other Askr Trio. Alphonse is the first one that you will have to upgrade, but he's not all of them you have to consider. So before this update actually happened, I didn't put too much effort into my Shrena. As you can see here, she still has Buckler. She pretty much has Reposition, Darting Blow, Sword Breaker, Fortified Defense. So that's going to require some work. Thankfully, I have inherited the skills I wanted to give her, and I farmed up the SP that I wanted to do so. And we're going to give her everything for that right now. Maxing all the skills with double rallies and 240 SP skills is ideal because this gives you as much points as you can. Now, when you choose to run without distant counter, you can afford to use one 200 SP skill, and the one that I've chosen to do with Shrena and her most difficult matchups will actually be Grima and Myrrh. These are very tanky green units. And that's where Shrena will struggle, but it won't be impossible for her to do it, especially using things like Ether to heal and cut through that. Attack Smoke, which I've given her in a second. All the buffs that you saw through Bike, through Sheena, Chill Defense, Hygoida, Ostia's Pulse, these sort of buffs on Shrena will bring her up to about 30 to 40 res again. Even if they're hitting through Triangle Advantage, Shrena still reaches a solid 60 HP plus where she'll be able to survive, retaliate, and do some work. So in the case of Shrena, I've actually chosen to give her Fury since you can afford to run a 200 SP skill. A 200 SP skill like Fury is what you can run should you choose not to run distant counter. It scores a little bit less, but it gives some much needed stats like attack and res. Now, I don't have the do right now to do it, but I will have the do to do it next week. So we're at 180 do, but once we get our stones from the end of this week, I will actually be choosing the Speed Defense Refine. And I do recommend you use this, especially with all the support that Shrena will be using with friends around her. It's fine to go with this. And in this case, I'm not going to use her the player phase way that I did with Alphonse, because with Alphonse, he has such high attack that Heavy Blade will proc most of the time. With Shrena, you could probably use a Flashing Blade Gale Force set, but since she's always around her friends, might as well just utilize that bond, which is fairly good. I mean, extra speed and defense is really nice, and dull everything on her weapon, which is good when you're dealing with units who may get rallied up with rally, res, attack, and speed and such. She'll be able to take care of Zelgius. She has plenty of HP and defense, you know, even with that 80% cut, she'll be okay. So generally just go with Fenslayer on a special refine. It's actually the best out of the 3 for a special refinement, and it should give credit where it's due. Yeah, I do have a little bit of farming to do. I won't be able to get Ether right now, but by the time she ends up as a bonus unit, that is what I intend to give her, so that she's more enemy phase based. With close defense and such, she'll be able to take care of stuff, no problem. Now, finally, Anna. Unlike all the credit I've given for Sharena and Alphonse, Anna is unfortunately the most difficult one to deal with. She is in a lot of trouble going forward with the current meta. The blue armors that you run into are generally not threatening enough that they require a green check. I've done plenty of arenas where I had just red and blue units, and I just didn't have to really worry about the blue armors, because unlike red, where you have Zelgius or Ira with Black Luna or Ragnalastra, and in the green you have Mgrima or Myrrh, who can either avoid doubles or just do insane amounts of damage with Bold Fighter. What you have in the blue is Harden with Ether, or the best you'll get is maybe something like Effie with Bold Fighter Gale Force, which actually will do a lot of damage to Anna because of her really awkward stat spread. You don't need so much speed, which is what Anna has, and you don't need so much res because most units are physical hitting. So what I've chosen to do with Anna is what I call the desperation build without actually using desperation. So you're switching out Noatin because it's generally not that good. For those of you that don't know, it is the weapon that ended up getting shafted the most, because what it does is it lets you have great mobility, and this is generally fairly good in the mid tiers. Maybe where you're not running into such a meta where there's so much physical damage and the meta units don't just one-shot you. Sure, you can afford to use this sort of mobility, it's probably really useful, but the thing with Anna is her really low attack stat warrants effective damage. She has significantly less damage than somebody like Alphonse and Sharena. Almost 10 less attack. Of course, once you're using Noatin, the difference is much closer, but that's substantial, and it's really difficult to kill something like Zelgius, who might have such high defense. So what I've chosen to do is I'm going to make her more player phase the way I did with Alphonse. I'm going to make sure she uses Slaying Hammer. I'm going to use her speed to double stuff. We're going to use Gale Force, maybe with Flashing Blade to take care of, to guarantee that Gale Force proccing often. And we kill Zelgius before he kills us. That's kind of the ideal, right? So she will get a lot of buffs, just like I showed you guys from before, with the team makeup that had a bunch of high Goitas, drives, and such. And I hope that you guys also have these plans in mind. Summoner support will help her a lot, and it's going to require every little bit of help to get Anna to work, but it will probably be possible. If you guys have ever seen some of my Summer Xander gameplay videos, I mean, most people would probably consider Anna probably better than Summer Xander. Even though she could probably run ploys, especially with a bit of support, my team comp will carry it through Sheena, who has 41 res, so attack ploy and defense ploy is there, and I've chosen to just give her acceleration on Gale Force through Flashing Blade. A ploy could be used in the C skill, and I think I might switch it over to that in the future. With Slaying Hammer, I'm likely to attack refine it to get as much effective damage out of that as possible, adds 50% extra damage. And finally, out of our bonus units, that's a little bit of an extra. We talked a little bit about the refines. What I'm talking about, Anna, is good if you're in mid-tiers and you want to take advantage of mobility of Noatin, but it doesn't make her a good combat unit. Finally, here's Fjorm. So the advantage Fjorm has over the Askr Trio is merges, and that makes her easier to deal with than the Askr Trio. She's going to get an additional 4 stats from merges, an additional 4 health, and then she can stack it on top of the bonus unit stats that you gain through Arena. So she can have up to 8 additional stats, up to 14 extra HP, before even considering things like ally supports, summoner supports, and such, which could bring it all the way up to 10 or 11 and such. You could even use Fury in the A slot because she's not running distant counter instead of attack defense bond. If you wanted to push up, you know, maybe a little bit of the res or the speed of her, you got a lot more flexibility with Fjorm, so she should generally be easier to deal with. She also has a kit already ready to go. So Fjorm luckily gets extra stats out of this, and you should be able to just kind of kill things just based on bloating the stats entirely. Now, I wouldn't be using Deflect Magic. This is just a placeholder here. You could just generally want to switch Ice Mirrored over to Ether and give her close defense, just like I was running on Shrena. It's pretty much like using Shrena the same way you would use Fjorm. It's kind of the same exact idea. Their stat spreads are fairly similar, with Fjorm having more res and Shrena having more attack and speed. So yeah, it's important that you kind of realize what you got to go into. So if you guys need some ideas from preparations or maybe some gameplay footage I'm going to show, these builds will all be in my Discord, so feel free to check out my Discord link in the description below. And I will have some gameplay footage showing you 20 bonus unit kills using any of these Askr trios when it arrives. We will be hitting and staying in tier 21 on both the main account and the free-to-play account, so look forward to that, and know that it is possible that you can compete if you choose to hit the highest scores with the right diligence and knowledge that you may acquire through playing this game. Okay, thanks for giving it a like, give it a subscription if you like the educational content. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.